You determine where you want to go in life based on the tongue. But the second illustration he mentions is a spark that sets a forest on fire. Now think about it. There's always some raging fire going on right now, right? What's the raging fire now? It's in Colorado? Boulder, Colorado. That's the new fire taking place. It's either Southern California or it's one taking place on Australia. There's always fires taking place. And these fires will consume thousands and thousands of acres. But what sets that forest on fire? It wasn't somebody bringing a 5,000-gallon gasoline truck and taking that truck and just lighting it and blowing it up, and that sets the fire. No. You know what he says? We all know the truth. Fires get started, usually not on purpose. And fires are almost always started by a small spark. Someone smoking a cigarette. They think it's lit or snuffed. They throw it into some dry leaves. And that little tiny butt of a cigarette can cause thousands and thousands of acres of damage. They don't mean to cause any damage. And you know what? No one really means to cause any damage. But they do it anyway. They mess up by their words. And you know, I'm talking to some people right now. You don't realize that your marital problem is caused by the words of your mouth. Your tongue is causing the damage. Your tongue is ruining the church you're a part of. That's right. Your tongue is closing down that business, ruining any chance of customers. Your tongue is destroying your health. Your tongue is robbing you of any peace and joy you could ever have. See, we're looking for some big thing that the devil's torching me. You know, we picture the devil down and just shooting a torch and causing our whole life to be caught on fire of hell. And we think the devil's attacking us and we don't realize he's not attacking us. It was our tongue, a little spark that set our life on fire from hell. And we're looking for some other problem when the problem lies in our tongue. And this is the point. A spark doesn't seem significant, but it's the thing that's causing the problems. Years ago, there was an ad campaign with Smokey the Bear looking at us, pointing his finger, and he says, "Only you can prevent forest fires." And you know what? That is true. Only you can prevent forest fires. So he mentions a small spark. And then he mentions poison inside fresh water. Now, let me ask you something. If I took a gallon of water, fresh water, clean water, and just put a couple of tablespoons of strychnine poison, would you mind drinking it? I wouldn't drink it. Well, but it's only a couple of tablespoons. This is a whole gallon of fresh water. You wouldn't, even if it's just a little. All right, how about a tablespoon? Not two, just a tablespoon. How about it? Feel safe now? No. All right, let's shrink it down. A teaspoon, just a teaspoon of strychnine poison in a gallon of fresh water. Now you don't mind drinking it, right? It's just a teaspoon, just a little bit. All right, let's cut it. Let's do a half teaspoon. Feel better? No? All right. We'll just take a couple of drops of strychnine poison. Just a couple of drops. Now you don't mind drinking it, right? Just one drop? It don't matter how small it is. It's still poison. That's the illustration he gives. He says it's amazing in our life. We think because we bless the Lord and we come to church and we witness of our faith, and so out of our mouth we're helping people, we're bringing them to Christ, we're praising God, we go to our children's church, we teach the Sunday school classes, and we do this and we use our tongue, but little do we know we're adding a couple of drops of strychnine poison because of the things we say to people. You think everything's been good, you're blessing the Lord, but then out of your mouth you put poison to your husband, poison to your wife, poison in your children, poison in your church. A little thing, little drop Little drops of strychnine poison. And you think that's not going to affect your life around you, but it does. That's what he's saying. He's saying you don't think that just the little drops are going to do it, but you know what? That fresh water is contaminated by the poison that you put in there. And it doesn't have to be a lot of poison. You may not even taste the poison. You may even drink the fresh water and you can't even taste that there's any strychnine in it, but it's still there. It's going to make you sick. And maybe worse, kill you. That's the illustration. But I saved the best illustration for last. He mentions the rudder to a ship. I've been on cruises, and if you've ever been on these cruise ships, they are incredible just to see. They are literally 2 to 3 times bigger than the biggest stadiums in America. These are huge ships, and when you get on one, I mean, it's incredible. You might go 13, 14 stories high. You see these incredible tall elevators. You go and see these big swimming pools. You go out, they have tennis rackets on there. They have rock climbing. You go out and they have these big theaters with 2,000 seats in it. It's an enormous ship. But there's one thing I never have seen yet on a cruise ship. I've never been taking a tour of the rudder. Because no matter how big that ship is, it's not the big theater that's determining the direction of the ship. It's not the swimming pools. It's not the tennis courts. There's one thing that's determining the direction of that ship. It's the rudder. But the thing about a rudder, it's below the surface of the water so that you don't even see it. The passengers are not even aware of what's directing the course of that ship. It is the captain who's making use of the rudder, and that rudder is determining where that ship is going. And you know what he's saying? Whether you realize it or not, the one thing that seems quite invisible to you, the tongue. You're not even aware of the tongue. In fact, when you talk to people, you might be aware of their pretty brown eyes. You might be aware of their wavy hair. But in other words, when you see someone, you rarely are thinking, you know, you have a pretty tongue. I like the color of your tongue. You know, you'll notice their eyes, their hair, their hands, their muscle, the size, their tallness or shortness, whatever. You'll see all of that, but you never notice the tongue. Because it's usually invisible. Even as I look out, I'm not seeing any tongues right now. Because the tongue is invisible. Like a rudder to a ship, it's below the surface of the water, invisible to the passengers. And what James is saying is, the thing that seems so insignificant, that no one even pays any attention to, that is invisible to you, he says what's really shaping the direction of your life is actually the thing you're not paying any attention to, and that is your tongue. Your tongue is determining where you go. And yet we make excuses for where our life is headed. You don't like where your life is headed. You don't like what's happening to you health-wise, about your marriage and about your children. You don't like where you're headed. But then you make all sorts of excuses. Well, it's the wind. No. The wind can be blowing from the east. That doesn't mean the ship has to go west. Through the rudder, the ship can go right into the storm and go right where the wind is coming. And because it is the captain, through the use of the rudder, that determines the direction of the ship, not the winds. And we can look at our life and say, well, it's the way I was brought up. My mom and dad, they were not very good parents, and that's why I'm all messed up. Wrong. You're only messed up because your words are messed up. Because it doesn't matter if you had bad parents, you can be a good parent, a good Christian, but you're not going to be one until you change your words. See, and this is what he's saying here, is even though there are strong winds trying to drive the ship, he's saying those strong winds are not the ultimate factor of the destiny of that ship. The factor is the captain who holds on to the steering, and he turns the ship where he wants to go. And that's controlling the rudder that's below the surface of the water and changing the whole direction of that ship.